Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has cancelled a visit to Washington by an Israeli delegation after the United States did not veto a UN Security Council resolution demanding a truce between Israel and Hamas. The resolution calls for a humanitarian ceasefire in Gaza for the remainder of the Muslim holy month of Ramadan. It passed 14-0 after the United States abstained and did not employ its veto power. The US has previously vetoed 3 resolutions demanding a ceasefire. The Council has been divided over the Israel-Hamas war since the October 7 terror attacks on Israel. I'm now joined by Rebecca Ritters in Jerusalem and Stefan Simons in Washington. Welcome to you both. First to you, Stefan, the UN Security Council demanding an immediate ceasefire in Gaza. This is the first time the UN Security Council has called for this.
Yes, that's true. There were 4 resolutions attempts which called for a ceasefire on the table before. 3 were vetoed by the US. 1 was vetoed, that was last Friday, by China and Russia. That was the draft the US put forward. Now we have it. This was a resolution drafted by Chinese and Russian diplomats, as well as supported by the bloc of Arab nations, 22, at the UN. Now, US diplomats and other diplomats, of course, at the UN had worked all weekend long to massage, to tweak the text which came forward then as a resolution, and the US abstained to. However, the US ambassador to the UN, Linda Thomas-Greenfield, said that she was not, and the US is not happy with everything said and how it was spelled out in this resolution, but that the US agreed to the fundamentals, meaning there must be, the US wants also a ceasefire in the United States and more rapid aid into Gaza. That's why the US abstained.
Rebecca, the decision of the UN Security Council came as a surprise to many, and Israel has reacted harshly after that decision. Tell us more.
Yeah, we've actually just been hearing from the Israeli ambassador to the UN, Gilad Erdan. He's been addressing the Security Council. He came out swinging, condemning the Council for not having come out in these last 6 months to condemn the Hamas attack. He was saying that it was double standards, that the Security Council, he used the example of the recent attack in Moscow, that the Security Council came out immediately to condemn that attack, but they haven't done the same in the 6 months against the Hamas attack. He said that this was a disgrace and that the UN should look at its moral contradiction. He then went on to reiterate a statement that the Prime Minister's office came out with almost immediately after the vote, that statement saying that the US's decision not to veto a resolution or any resolution that supports a ceasefire without the release of the hostages, in fact, hurts the war effort and hurts their attempts to get the hostages out. The Prime Minister's office, Benjamin Netanyahu, has then, almost immediately, as soon as the vote was announced, cancelled a delegation, an Israeli delegation that was meant to head to the US today to meet with American and a US delegation to discuss the ongoing operation in Gaza, particularly when it comes to Rafah and going forward. Now, we know that the US have been trying to coax Israel away from a major offensive in Rafah, and that's something that Israel says they're not willing to do, but they were willing to send this delegation. That is something that has now been cancelled. However, the Defence Minister, Yoav Gallant, is already in the US and will be meeting with representatives there to discuss that Rafah operation. But yes, and definitely some strong reaction here from Israel.
What do you think this is going to do, Rebecca, to relations between Israel and the US, which are so important in how this war goes ahead in Gaza?
Well, Ben, this is certainly a blow to the bilateral US-Israel relations that have been very strong during this war. Now, prior to the war breaking out, we did see that relationship falter slightly. The US administration under President Biden and the Israeli administration under Benjamin Netanyahu not always seeing eye to eye vis-a-vis particularly changes being made to the Supreme Court or attempts of the Israeli government to do that. So we did see some friction there already, but as soon as the Hamas attack on October 7, we saw the US come out in complete support. They have been standing side by side with Israel throughout this last nearly 6 months. But we have been seeing the US rhetoric change in recent days, if not weeks. We've been starting to see their rhetoric, as I say, particularly when it comes to this Rafah, this planned Rafah offensive change. They're starting to step away. They're trying to urge Israel not to go in that direction, and they're seeing friction with the relationship. So we're definitely seeing that further tarnished today with this decision not to veto this Security Council vote, and the relationship certainly being strained.
We've seen one failed vote after the next. This really is a huge breakthrough of types. Stefan, can you bring us any reaction otherwise from Washington as to this breaking news?
Well, towards the UN vote, there is no reaction from the White House per se. But, of course, the White House expressed its disappointment that Israel and Benjamin Netanyahu canceled the delegation visit to the U.S. However, as Rebecca pointed out, the Israeli defense minister is here and is going to meet and talk to National Security Advisor Sullivan. And he is the top dog in national security here at the White House. So this is not a meeting which shouldn't be underestimated. However, as Rebecca also pointed out, the U.S. has, and President Biden himself has said now very, very clearly and straightforward that they do not want Israel to go forward with any operation into Rafah. Secretary of State Blinken had to hear this from Prime Minister Netanyahu on Friday, while the CIA Director William Burns was negotiating hostages in Qatar through Qatar with Hamas. So this is what the U.S. is hoping to focus on now, the hostage negotiation. They want everybody to support Hamas to accept the deal, to release hostages. That's important for the Biden administration, also politically here inside the United States. But, and Biden has said as much, there is, all options are on the table when it comes to what support is on the chopping block if Israel goes into Rafah with a sustained military operation. That's not what the Biden administration wants. And it looks like, as Rebecca hinted at this, or said frankly too, relations are not at their best at the moment. Having said that, it is also prudent to remember that Israel will be, as well as the U.S. will be, vice versa, always a key ally to each other. The U.S. to Israel, and Israel in this region for the U.S.
You heard it from Stefan Simons there, and Rebecca Ritters, our correspondents, both in Washington and Jerusalem. Thank you.